Namaste, and welcome to our continuing series on Savitri with our beloved Ranga. We are on page 14, beginning with the line, "Well might he find in her his perfect shrine."
But we will start reading from love, because there is a connection.
Okay, yes, except that there's a comma before that, so maybe here with the suddenness divine advents have. Here, with the suddenness divine advents have, repeating the marvel of the first descent, changing to rapture the dull earthly round, love came to her, hiding the shadow death. Well might he find in her his perfect shrine. Since first the earth being's heavenward growth began, through all the long ordeal of the race, never a rarer creature bore his shaft, that burning test of the Godhead in our parts, a lightning from the heights on our abyss. All in her pointed to a nobler kind, near to earth's wideness, intimate with heaven, exalted and swift, her young, large-visioned spirit, voyaging through worlds of splendor and of calm, overflew the ways of thought to unborn things. Ardent was her self-poised, unstumbling will. Her mind, a sea of white sincerity, passionate in flow, had not one turbid wave.
Last time we had a discussion on love. So now if you read the next line, it becomes very clear. And there is also shaft. These are the indications.
Yes, Cupid's shaft.
Yes, that's right. So, I'm reading although it's part of the sentence, love came to her, hiding the shadow death. Okay? Because it's a day when Satyavan is going to die. So, love is there in her, but death is looming in the background. And how did love come? The description, 4 lines above. Here with the suddenness divine events have. The suddenness divine advents have. The divine advents have, repeating the marvel of the first descent, changing to rapture the dull earthly round, love came to her, hiding the shadow death. So, love, when it is coming into Savitri, it is with the suddenness of divine advents have. So, it is coming suddenly, and love came to her, hiding the shadow death. Now, we read, well might he find in her his perfect shrine. Since first the earth being's heavenward growth began, through all the long ordeal of the race, never a rarer creature bore his shaft. So, this is the indication, the shaft and he. So, it is love coming in the form of Cupid to her.
And this is all about love here.
Yes.
And how Savitri is only able to receive him.
Yeah. And he's saying that love, well might he find in her his perfect shrine. So he could lodge himself, love could find a perfect reception in her heart. That's what he's saying. Certainly he's saying that. Perfect shrine. Since first the earth being's heavenward growth began, through all the long ordeal of the race, never a rarer creature bore his shaft. So, love is coming to Savitri and she is the first one to receive. She is the rarest of all creatures which has borne this shaft in the upward journey.
But we have to note that the earth being's heavenward growth.
That's right.
Since that time, love came.
Yes.
Before it
From
wasn't
the beginning.
there.
Huh? since first the earth beings heavenward growth began. So when does earth begin? Right from the beginning, there is the attempt to rise up, the evolution.
Earth beings.
Yes.
Yeah.
The earth being, there is an earth being, there is a life being, there is a mental being. So all these are also beings. So here also, we know that there is a Purusha aspect. Annamaya Purusha, Pranamaya Purusha, Manomaya Purusha, Vijnanamaya Purusha, Anandamaya Purusha. So when Srinath uses the word being, he means the Purusha aspect. But it is universal. Earth being, not an individual. The evolution going up.
Correct.
So, since first the earth beings heavenward growth began, through all the long ordeal of the race, a very long struggle in this, never a rarer creature bore his shaft. So she is the purest and the rarest whom love Cupid could find his shrine in. That's what he said. That burning, never bore his shaft. The word shaft and he and perfect shrine are very clear indication that he is speaking of love personified. That burning test of the Godhead in our parts, a lightning from the heights on our abyss, all in her pointed to a nobler kind. So I'll stop here because a lightning from the heights on our abyss. He says many other places that love is the most difficult to come down. And he says that is the reason why love has not yet come down in the mother. He says that in synthesis. Love is the purest form, so it takes a long time for it to. In one of the Wednesday classes, they asked mother that love has not yet come down. When will it come down? And she replied, she has descended. So into whom and all that, everyone is free to decide what they want, but she did say that it has come down. When he wrote The Mother, this question had come up. In the synthesis he writes very clearly, love is the last to come down. Sat, Chit, Shakti, all these can come down. But love is the last, because it is so pure that the world will not be able to bear it, it will reject it. That burning test of the Godhead in our parts, a lightning from the heights on our abyss, all in her pointed to a nobler species, near to earth's wideness, intimate with heaven. So she is so noble that you can describe her as almost perfect on earth and perfect in heaven too. That's what is meant. Exalted and swift, her young, large-visioned spirit, voyaging through worlds of splendor and of calm. The worlds of splendor and of calm are obviously in the spiritual planes of consciousness. Calm definitely in the spiritual planes. Splendor also can be there. Overflew the ways of thought to unborn things. So, the ways of thought are certainly the normal condition of man, level 1 if you want. So, over that it has gone. But using thought with a T cap, in other words, whenever he uses mind with an M cap, it goes right up to the overmind level. So he is using here thought not in the normal our thought, but the mind planes of consciousness right up to. So it is overflowing that. And that's why the world of splendor, the splendor and calm is there at that highest height. Ardent was a self-poised, unstumbling will. Ardent, it is ardent and yet self-poised. And our will is stumbling all the time, but her will was steady and no stumbling at all. A very firm, steady. His description of her condition. Her mind, a sea of white sincerity. What a description. A sea of white sincerity. Passionate in flow, had not one turbid wave, absolutely pure. Now, the next passage is one of the most fantastic passages, and I must also tell you that I have marked out the portion that Mother has chosen for the painting and the music. So this is one of them, as in a mystic and dynamic dance. We read, and then I'll tell you something about this passage also.
Jyoti Narayan told me one time that it was the greatest passage in Savitri.
Who told you?
Jyoti Narayan.
Okay.
Yeah, he felt it was so great.
Yeah.
And I memorized it, but I won't do it from memory today. As in a mystic and dynamic dance, a priestess of immaculate ecstasies, inspired and ruled from truth's revealing vault, moves in some prophet cavern of the gods, a heart of silence in the hands of joy, inhabited with rich creative beats, a body like a parable of dawn that seemed a niche for veiled divinity or golden temple door to things beyond. Immortal rhythms swayed in her time-born steps. Her look, her smile awoke celestial sense, even in earth stuff, and their intense delight poured a supernal beauty on men's lives. A wide self-giving was her native act, a magnanimity as of sea or sky, enveloped with its greatness all that came, and gave a sense as of a greatened world. Her kindly care was a sweet, temperate sun, her high passion a blue heaven's equipoise. As might a soul fly like a hunted bird, escaping with tired wings from a world of storms, and a quiet reach like a remembered breast, in a haven of safety and splendid soft repose, one could drink life back in streams of honey fire, recover the lost habit of happiness, feel her bright nature's glorious ambience, and preen joy in her warmth and colors rule. A deep of compassion, a hushed sanctuary, her inward help unbarred a gate in heaven. Love in her was wider than the universe. The whole world could take refuge in her single heart. The great, unsatisfied Godhead here could dwell. Vacant of the dwarf self's imprisoned air, her mood could harbor his sublimer breath, spiritual, that can make all things divine. For even her gulfs were secrecies of light. At once she was the stillness and the word, a continent of self-diffusing peace, an ocean of untrembling virgin fire. The strength, the silence of the gods were hers. In her he found a vastness like his own. His high, warm, subtle ether he refound, and moved in her as in his natural home. In her he met his own eternity.
Absolutely fantastic passage. Unbelievable. And it's got a mantric power. Maybe we won't be able to understand, but the very vibrations of it are something fantastic. And this is the passage which Mother has chosen as in a mystic and dynamic dance. So we will read that passage, and I'll tell you something connected with this which Amal told me. Amal said that once he was in his dream, he was sleeping, and in his in the subtle world, he was attacked by a hostile force. And the blow came on his spine, and it broke his spine in the subtle world. And he immediately started reciting this passage. And he recited it to me. And he said this mantric effect cured him completely. And he woke up. And Mother has chosen this passage. So it's not very easy to understand, but let's try and absorb the vibrations. If there's so many images there, so it's as in a mystic and dynamic dance, a priestess of immaculate ecstasies, inspired and ruled from truth's revealing vault, moves in some prophet cavern of the gods, a heart of silence in the hands of joy, inhabited with rich creative beats, a body like a parable of dawn that seemed a niche for veiled divinity, or a golden temple door to things beyond. Obviously, the whole passage is a description of Savitri. This is what she is. She is like a priestess of immaculate ecstasies. Okay? And in the ecstasies, there is this mystic and dynamic dance. And it is inspired, this is inspired from, ruled from truth's revealing vault, moves in some prophet cavern of the gods. Now, prophet cavern, you can understand in your own way. Everyone can think of how to interpret that. But the cavern of the gods could be something which we don't see, but is the very often you could think of it as the origin of something. A cavern, and then you come out of the cavern. So, prophet cavern of the gods. In other words, it has the potentiality to express whatever is there in it. Prophet is one who forecasts the future. So one who is coming out from this vault is coming out all creation. You could think of it in that way. The prophet cavern of the gods. Look at the daring image. He's taking a cavern, a cave, and he's calling it a prophet. Okay. And we have to link it to truth's revealing vault. The vault also is some sort of cavern only. Because, yeah. So, now this line, a heart of silence in the hands of joy. So, this is Savitri, a heart of silence in the hands of joy, inhabited with rich creative beats. Inhabited what? A body. Her body, like a parable of dawn. It's an image of the beauty of dawn. So this is passage which Mother has marked out, and if it is read in the right way, it is certainly a mantric value. So it's a description of Savitri. Or if she is, that seemed a niche for veiled divinity. So the divinity is there in her, but it is veiled by the outer. Or golden temple door to things beyond. This is, nothing could be more descriptive than Mother. Okay, she is the golden temple door to things beyond. You can go through her and you will go to all the divine things beyond.
So he speaks of her heart, he speaks of her body, he speaks of her rhythms, her
That's
look,
right.
her smile. He's describing
Exactly.
Mother to us so clearly.
It is absolutely a perfect description of Savitri, which is absolutely applicable to Mother. Okay.
And no one else.
Because she is the work she did, which Savitri is doing in this legend, she is the one who did in the physical world. At least you can say she took the first step. That was the first step that she took. Conquest of death. Immortal rhythms swayed in her time-bound steps. Time-bound steps, the physical. Okay? Her look, her smile awoke celestial sense, even in earth stuff, and their intense delight poured a supernal beauty on men's lives. A wide self-giving was her native act. A magnanimity as of sea or sky, enveloped with its greatness all that came, and gave a sense as of a greatened world. Her kindly care was a sweet, temperate sun. So beautiful. Sweet, temperate sun. It's a sun with great power, but it is temperate. It doesn't hurt. The light and the heat coming from the sun is a temperate one. It is soft and sweet. But it's the sun, power. Her high passion, a blue heaven's equipoise. That passion is usually not at all equipoised. But here in her, the passion is absolutely calm and quiet, equipoise, equilibrium. Now this passage also Mother has marked out for the painting and music. As might a soul fly like a hunted bird, escaping with tired wings from a world of storms, and a quiet reach like a remembered breast in a haven of safety and splendid soft repose, one could drink life back in streams of honey fire, recover the lost habit of happiness, feel her bright nature's glorious ambience, and preen joy in her warmth and colours rule. The word preen is so interesting. He has used a bird preens itself. It takes its beak and goes on cleaning its own feathers, and enjoys what it's doing. So, for a bright nature's glorious ambience, and preen joy in her warmth and colours rule. One could do that. One could recover, one could drink, one could recover, one could feel, one could preen. He has to repeat the subject, then it makes sense. One could drink life back in streams of, and where? In a haven of safety and splendid repose, in her. You could do this. You could drink life back in streams of honey fire, recover the lost habit of happiness, feel her bright nature's glorious ambience, and preen joy in her warmth and colours rule.
When we went before her, we always felt this haven of safety.
Yeah.
In Mother's presence. Always.
Yeah. You will see the repetition of the idea also, haven of safety. So the cave and the vault, these are all the havens of safety. A deep compassion, a hushed sanctuary, again, the sanctuary, haven and sanctuary. Her inward help, unbarred, a gate in heaven. Now, note this sentence and see the idea repeated elsewhere. She says, golden temple door to things beyond. So, golden temple door to things beyond she is, and here also he is saying the whole, her inward help, unbarred, a gate in heaven. So the gate, the golden temple door, it can open and you can enter into her. She is the one who is that. So there is a echo of the same idea elsewhere also. A gate in heaven. Love in her was wider than the universe. The whole world could take refuge in a single heart. Such simple language, but so powerful the image. The great unsatisfied Godhead here could dwell. So, who is this great unsatisfied Godhead?
Love.
Cupid again. Yeah,
Love.
Okay, that's right. And why is he not satisfied? Because he wants to claim his. Could here dwell. So, that's why, again here also you could see, here could dwell, and he has said earlier, well might he find in her his perfect shrine. So it's a repetition of the idea again, that here he could dwell. And the line there before that, well might he find in her his perfect shrine. So, and if the shrine is there, he can dwell in the shrine. Vacant of the dwarf self's imprisoned air. The dwarf self is your body, mind, life, but she is vacant of that. She is not being imprisoned at all by that. Okay, her mood could harbor his sublimer breath, spiritual, that can make all things divine. Pure love can make all things divine. For even her gulfs were secrecies of light. Beautiful. Even the lowest parts, her gulfs, the lowest parts, were also secrecies of light. Because he has said earlier, if you remember, he has said that she was, near to earth's wideness, intimate with heaven. So perfect here and perfect there, both. So that's why, again, the same idea, vacant of the dwarf self's imprisoned air, her mood could harbor his sublimer breath, spiritual. This breath is spiritual. Love's breath is spiritual, that can make all things divine. For even her gulfs were secrecies of light. At once she was the stillness and the word. So the stillness is the Brahmic consciousness, absolutely calm, quiet, featureless. But she is also capable of creation. The word is symbol for creation. So being quiet, she can still create. And you hark back to the idea in the Mother, where he says that the Divine Mother is the creatrix. She is the mediatrix between spirit and matter, and she is the one who creates. So here he is using the word word. He is using word. Word is the power to create. So that's what he's saying. Now again, description of her. A continent of self-diffusing peace, an ocean of untrembling virgin fire, purity, virgin fire, purity. The strength, the silence of the gods were hers. Silence and strength both. In her he found a vastness like his own. His high, warm, subtle ether he refound. Ether is the highest level of the substances, and there it is the purest. So, and moved in her as in his natural home. In her he met his own eternity.
We can
So
look
love has come into Savitri, yes.
We can look also gulfs, continent, ocean, all of these words
That's
Sri
right.
Aurobindo's pouring into a few lines. Till then, no mournful line had barred this ray. On the frail breast of this precarious earth, since her orbed sight in its breath-fastened house, opening in sympathy with happier stars, where life is not exposed to sorrowful change, remembered beauty, death-claimed lids ignore, and wondered at this world of fragile forms, carried on canvas strips of shimmering time. The impunity of unborn mites was hers. Although she leaned to bear the human load, her walk kept still the measures of the gods. Earth's breath had failed to stain that brilliant glass. Unsmeared with the dust of our mortal atmosphere, it still reflected heaven's spiritual joy. Almost they saw, who lived within her light, her playmate in the sempiternal spheres, descended from its unattainable realms, in her attracting Advent's luminous wake, the white fire dragon bird of endless bliss, drifting with burning wings above her days. Heaven's tranquil shield guarded the mission child.
So, He has described Savitri's condition of absolute purity, power, and stillness. This is what he has described. Now, till then, no mournful line had barred this ray. Till then, no mournful line had barred this ray. On the frail breast of this precarious earth, since her orbed sight in its breath-fastened house. Breath-fastened house is the body-mind life, obviously. It is bound to the breath, and therefore the house is the lower nature of body, life and mind. But in that, she has an orbed sight. The word orbed is very interesting, and you can interpret it in so many ways. Even the eye is an orb, but orbed sight means global sight. You can also think of it in that way, that her sight was infinite. You could say that. Orbed sight.
But her body was breath fastened.
That's
she
right.
took human birth.
That's right. Even in the body, her sight is infinite. Opening in sympathy with happier stars, where life is not exposed to sorrowful change. So, if you go into the spiritual planes of consciousness, there is no sorrowful change at all. You are absolutely in the Brahman consciousness and self. So she has gone there. Where life is not exposed to sorrowful change. Sorrowful change is only at level 1 in the physical world. Remembered, beauty, death-claimed lids ignore. So, where life is not exposed to sorrowful change, that means in the higher plane of consciousness, where she could also remembered beauty which death-claimed lids ignore. The normal eyelids of man, okay, can't see the beauty, but she, even the body, she can see that because of her orbed sight, the eyelids. So he has said orbed sight, and now he is again repeating lids, her eyes. Okay, so there is a connection. You can see the subtle connection running all through the image. Since her orbed sight in its breath-fastened house in the body, opening in sympathy with happier stars in higher planes of consciousness, where life is not exposed to sorrowful change. So, in the lower world, sorrowful change. But in the higher worlds, no sorrowful change. And there you can remember beauty which death-claimed lids ignore. Death-claimed lids are the normal sight of man. That we don't see and remember beauty. That's what he said. But she saw and wondered at this world of fragile forms carried on canvas strips of shimmering time. So, carried on, he has told us right in the beginning, till then no mournful line barred this way. But now she is come down into the physical body and she is wondering at the frailty of the earth and all the wrong things that are there.
But the ray is piercing through and no line can bar it.
That's right. So, no line had barred, but now she is wondering all this, she is in time and she is seeing the physical world of fragile forms and she is wondering about these fragile forms. Fragile forms, very clear, all the forms in the physical world are transient and temporary. They come into existence and disappear. There is no permanence there at all. That's what is meant. Carried on canvas strips of shimmering time. So time, shimmering time, you are not seeing the whole picture. You are seeing only canvas strips.
Yeah.
You are seeing, and shimmering time. It's not a whole vision of things. In the physical world, that's what we see. We see only bits and pieces. The impunity of unborn mites was hers. Now, impunity, freedom from harm and punishment. That's impunity. Okay? The impunity of unborn mites was hers. Okay? Totally free and cannot be faulted. That's what it means. Her unborn mites was hers. Although she leaned to bear the human load, her walk kept still the measure of the gods. She is on earth, but she is divine. That's what it meant. Earth's breath had failed to stain that brilliant glass. Again, another image. And this line, he is saying the same thing which he said in the first line. Till then, no mournful line had barred this ray. And this is what he is saying again here. Earth's breath had failed to stain that brilliant glass. The physical world, with all its imperfections, could not make her dirty or impure. She was absolutely pure. And brilliant glass, he is saying, okay, unsmeared with the dust of our mortal atmosphere. So, again there is an image there, na? Stain brilliant glass, absolutely pure and transparent. That could not be stained, nor could the dust of the physical world smear her, okay, unsmeared with the dust of our mortal atmosphere. The physical world is full of imperfections, and it can smear you very easily, but not Savitri. That's what he says. It still reflected heaven's spiritual joy. What reflected? You have to go back and see. The earth's breath had failed to stain that brilliant glass, unsmeared. It still reflected heaven's spiritual joy in her. Almost they saw who lived within her light, her playmate in the sempiternal spheres, descended from its unattainable realms in her attracting advent's luminous wake, the white fire dragon bird of endless bliss. This was the playmate, the white fire dragon bird of endless bliss. It's a passage which is not very easy to understand, nor one can interpret in so many different ways. But the basic ideas, if they are there in the life divine, the different planes and all that, to a certain extent we can. The white fire dragon bird of endless bliss. Now, dragon bird he is calling. It's a bird, but it's a dragon. The dragon is usually a symbol of the inconscient. He uses the word dragon for the inconscient, the infinite inconscient. So, what he means, we have to see carefully. Drifting with burning wings above her days. Her days, again, days means in time and in the physical world. Heaven's tranquil shield guarded the missioned child. The missioned child is Savitri. And what is she missioned with? To conquer death. That's her mission. Savitri is certainly not easy to understand. If you want to go into, because it's fluid poetry. So you have to interpret what is meaning. But as I said, there are several ways of reading Savitri. You try and understand what he's saying, that's fine. But also just read it for the sound value and the mantric value. So these are all the mantric values, certainly.
A glowing orbit was her early term. Years like gold raiment of the gods that pass. Her youth sat throned in calm felicity. But joy cannot endure until the end. There is a darkness in terrestrial things that will not suffer long too glad a note. On her, too, closed the inescapable hand. The armed immortal bore the snare of time. One dealt with her who meets the burdened great, a signer of the ordeal and the path, who chooses in this holocaust of the soul death, fall, and sorrow as the spirit's goads, the dubious Godhead with his torch of pain lit up the chasm of the unfinished world and called her to fill with her vast self the abyss. August and pitiless in his calm outlook, heightening the eternal's dreadful strategy, he measured the difficulty with the might and dug more deep the gulf that all must cross.
He is now talking about death. So he is saying that however pure Savitri was, everybody gets affected by the physical world's imperfections. That's basically, you can see that very clearly. There is a darkness in terrestrial things that will not suffer too long, too glad a note. We'll read from where you left off. A glowing orbit was her early term. A glowing orbit was her early term. Years like gold raiment of the gods that pass in beauty. Then her youth. He is describing first the childhood, early term. Then he is describing her youth. Her youth sat throned in calm felicity. But joy cannot endure till the end. In the physical world, everyone has to undergo this problem. There is a darkness in terrestrial things that will not suffer long to glad a note. So, suffer in the sense of allow or tolerate. It will not suffer too long, suffer long, too glad a note.
There's a beautiful line from Christ. Suffer the little children to come to me. Allow.
Yeah. On her too closed the inescapable hand. The hand is, now he is going to speak of death. Inescapable hand. Nobody is free from death in the physical world. However pure she was. Even avatars have to face that. So that's what he's saying. And the hand is a H-cap. The armed immortal bore the snare of time. One dealt with her who meets the burdened great. So, the burdened great, even the greatest, are burdened with the law of death in the physical world. Can't escape. It's the inescapable hand. One. Who is this one? He is assigner of the ordeal and the path. Okay? He is the one who, because in Sanskrit you have the word Yama. And Yama is the king of death. But Yama is also the one who rules and lays down the laws. Yam is to control. So Yama is the one who lays down the laws in the physical world. They are rigid rules. You can't escape them. That's what is being said. Assigner of the ordeal and the path, who chooses in this holocaust of the soul death, fall, and sorrow as the spirit's goads. So death chooses for the soul, he chooses what? Fall and sorrow. And why does it do that? Because it encourages the soul to go beyond that. Its idea is the same as the hammer of the gods. The hammer of the gods, it purifies you. Tragedy has a purifying effect. That's what is being said.
So, Yama, who is the assigner of this ordeal,
that's right.
He chooses in this holocaust of
that's
the soul three things.
Yes.
Death, fall, and sorrow.
Yeah.
that are the spirit's goads to push us?
I would think that assigner death is a subject, okay? Assigner of the ordeal and the path, and who is that? It is death. You could put death even as a sambodhanam. What is sambodhanam? Vocative case, just addressing, okay? Death is the assigner who chooses for the soul, he chooses what? Fall and sorrow as the spirit's goads. It's not that who is selecting? Assigner is not selecting death. Death himself is the assigner. Is the ordeal and who chooses in this holocaust of the soul. And the holocaust of the soul is very interesting because it's a vast destruction. The soul, divine soul, has come down to the physical world and lost all its divinity. That's why it's a great sacrifice, a great destruction. He uses this word in the mother also. More than the sacrifice of the Purusha, it is the holocaust of the mother. She is the one who comes down, Prakriti, loses her divinity and makes herself a total freedom is gone and you are only obeying unconsciously laws. That's why he is saying the holocaust of the soul. Death, who chooses, he is the assigner, who is the chooses, and he is also the dubious Godhead. And he is choosing what? Choosing fall and sorrow. Fall, loss of consciousness, loss of power, loss of everything, ananda. And sorrow also, as the spirit's goads. The spirit is being challenged to go beyond itself. That's a goad. So always he says that in Savitri, synthesis is also a very clear idea. Suffering is the price you have to pay to go to a higher level. It's a ransom you pay to regain what you have lost. That's the idea here also.
I see it a little bit differently. I see that the assigner chooses death, fall, and sorrow as the goads of the spirit. But
then you have to tell me who is the assigner.
The divine.
It is death who is choosing.
Okay.
It's an apposition. The dubious Godhead with his touch of pain, with his torch of pain. The dubious Godhead, there you are again very clearly, the dubious Godhead is the death and he is the assigner. With his torch of pain, lit up the chasm of the unfinished world and called her to fill with her vast self the abyss. So, she has to now change the rules and the laws of the abyss. August and pitiless in his calm outlook, description of death, Yama, heightening the Eternal's dreadful strategy, he measured the difficulty with the might and dug more deep the gulf that all must cross. Which is the gulf that all must cross? Death. That's in fact, there is always the river which you have to cross.
Styx. The river Styx.
That's right, Styx. And in India also we have the Vaitarani. Yeah. So there is this is the he is digging the gulf even deeper so that no one can escape. That okay. And dug more deep the gulf that all must cross, assailing her divinest elements. This is death, trying to impose death quickly on Savitri. He made her heart kin to the striving human heart. Her heart, which she has said was full of love and could take the whole world, now death is forcing that heart to become a striving human heart. So now the human suffering will come into her. Before that, she was absolutely calm, quiet and all. But now the human suffering will enter into her.
And this is where Sri Aurobindo speaks to Narad that the avatar has to take on all these pains of humanity.
That's right. heightening the Eternal's dreadful strategy. Because the Eternal's dreadful strategy is what? Suffering, pain, fall, unconsciousness, evil. These are all things being imposed. But there is a strategy behind it. But it is dreadful. If you don't understand, it is horrible. The dreadful, what is the strategy? What is the strategy? Encouraging you to go beyond all that suffering. If there is no suffering and no negativity, you will be quite comfortable in your own place. It is always a difficulty that man is challenged and he tries to conquer that difficulty. Any difficulty that is there, man tries to conquer. And that is what is being used by the divine and imposing death and suffering and all this so that you can cross that and go beyond. That's the whole idea. Even death, the opposite of the divine immortality, has a purpose. That's the whole point. I think we could stop here today.
Yes, good. Thank you, Ranga. Namaste all.